and welcome to Irish Iron episode number. It's chronic. It's meant to be number 10, but Brian pulled out, or he hasn't gotten back to me. So it's really number. No, it's really number 8 because Jesse is going to be on next week, and then I'll get Brian on at a later date. But I didn't want to change the numbers, so I just kept the numbers. So whenever I fit them in, it'll organize on Spotify anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But our next guest is the juggernaut, Connor Magee. How you doing, Connor?
All right, Owen. How's things? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. I said, you know what? One of the people I want to get on is yourself. For anyone listening, me and Connor have never actually formally competed with each other. And we've competed in the same shows, but we've never been in the same class. Um, Connor, how old are you now? You must be 28, 29.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be 30 next month, so I'm getting on now, in fairness.
Yeah, so as you can see, Connor was
Yeah.
one of the first. He came up as a junior at the same time. Blessing came up, and you got to compete. Was that your first junior show, competing with Blessing?
No, my first show was actually 2011. I suppose how I kind of got into bodybuilding first was when I left. I finished up in college. I kind of was up in Galway, in NUI Galway, but all I was doing up there was kind of drinking and acting the bollocks, to be honest, and enjoying myself. And I said I'm going to go back to work in the family business for a couple of years and kind of earn a few pounds and kind of get back on my feet. But then I was actually boxing at the time for NUI Galway, and I was about 58, 59 kilos, and I was actually boxing a bantamweight at under 57 kilos. So that'll actually tell you what size I was when I first started.
Were you the same height, man? Were you still like 5'11"?
Yeah, still the same height, still 5'11", yeah. So I was very skinny.
Yeah.
I was very skinny. So yeah, it was actually my friend Connor Flynn who actually ended up competing with in the first show. I started training with him when I kind of moved back home, and the gym in Portlaoise, and that's where Shane Cullen actually trained as well. So kind of all kind of knew each other. And then it was 2010 Nationals, I think it was, when Ronnie Coleman was the guest poser at the show. We got to meet him, and that was my first show to go and watch. And I was kind of like,
Wow.
I kind of been training about 7 or 8 months at the time, and that kind of just lit the fire underneath me then to kind of go and compete. And then I did the Spring Classic in 2011 then, which was actually down in Limerick. Yeah, it was 2011 Spring Classic in Limerick, and me and Connor both did the juniors. So it was actually nice because it was both our first time. We were both training together, so we kind of did the whole thing together, even though we didn't really know what we were doing. But it was a great experience. Yeah, and Connor actually ended up winning that show, and I managed to scrape third. I came in. I was very small, but my condition, because I was so naturally skinny, I got lean very quick.
Yeah. Did you still have the lower body back then? Like, were your legs?
My legs, it was actually, believe it or not, it was actually at that time, my legs, I was fairly kind of balanced overall when it was at that show, when I seen Ronnie Coleman. And then I seen actually, I forget whose legs I seen at that show, but it was like, geez, I may start training my legs harder. And I actually started training them twice a week. So my first show, like, all I really had was a set of legs, to be honest, in some ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that's crazy, man. Like, I mean, for somebody like what, like, I mean, like when I came in as a junior, there wasn't really any, like, it was all fairly level. I mean, there wasn't anyone who was leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. I mean, certainly there wasn't. When I was 18, everybody was kind of on a level playing field. Like when you competed as a junior, it was obviously there was a lot more competitors back then as well.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't really any breakout stars. Was there a few guys, like, I know Pat Curran was a great junior.
Yeah, he was just before my time. Him and Ian, because I remember the Flex magazines at the time. Because I used to collect them all, and I remember them guys got into the Flex magazine from the year before. And I think it was, I think that was when the junior bodybuilding started to kind of really get big, and it was kind of big for a few years. And then obviously, as you know now, it's kind of regressing slightly because of the other categories. But yeah, I think even in my first show, that Spring Classic, there was like 12 juniors, like, for a Spring Classic show back then, which wasn't even the Nationals. It was like, and you know yourself, back then there was no Instagram. There was, so shows weren't really promoted very well, but still there was a lot of young guys starting to kind of get into it at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like when I started out, I mean, I was lucky enough. I was surrounded by Christian was 3 years ahead of me in school. I
Yeah,
had Aaron Power, who was in the same gym. He was kind of the phenom coming up at the time.
yeah,
But he dropped off. And then obviously I heard of yourself. I heard of Shane
yeah,
Cullen. Me and him talk back and forth. But I mean, there was a lot of us. There was a ton of juniors back then, and especially there was no men's physique. There was no. I think there was no class. There was athletic, but you were forced to do junior bodybuilding.
yeah, yeah.
And back then, I mean, do you think like I mean a lot of the guys you did it with, they're still competing. I mean, um,
Yeah, Shane, Christian, there's a lot of guys that came up, but obviously Blessing was there, and look where he is now.
yeah.
Like I remember I actually chatted. Aaron was supposed to do the same Spring Classic in 2012 against Blessing and Christian.
All right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so Aaron actually, me and Aaron used to chat every morning when we were doing our cardio for like 2 or 3 months before the show, and then he didn't end up competing in that show after because I think Paul Byrne nabbed him, and he went to the Worlds that time and everything. So I never actually got to compete against him, but he would have won that show. He would have bet Blessing that year for definite, like, you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
that was a great standard of juniors. There must have been about 15 or 16 of us at that Spring Classic as well. And like then even I think was it 2013. Yeah, I suppose back when you first started and kind of up to 2013 was when there seemed to be a lot of juniors, and then it slowly kind of has drifted off now since then.
Yeah. I mean, like when I was 2013 for sure. Nava. What people don't realize listening to this was juniors was under 21s back then in Nava too.
Yeah,
So like um I tell people this like there was 21 competitors in an under 21 class. So I was like,
yeah,
that's crazy. Then in RBBF it was under 23s, and I did compete with Shane there, and there was around more. There was four or five more.
yeah,
But I mean, back then, I mean, I remember looking at it and I was thinking like, nobody like. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like people are giving out today about condition being off and everything, but I think you were there. I mean, you had the winners, and the winners were always generally on the button. But I mean, because there was so many competitors, I about half of them were off. I mean, as a
yeah,
junior, the class was so much more diversified. So do you
yeah.
think the standard? It's not that it's gone up.
No, there's just
Just that,
less guys doing it, but the
yeah,
guys that are still doing it now are still them same guys that would probably be your top six anyway, like, you know, kind of way. So I
yeah,
don't think it makes much difference. It's just that the shows, like with them actually categories are small but smaller. That's the only difference it's really
yeah,
making, like, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Um,
No, that's for
'Cause like,
sure. I mean, there's always going to be the hardcore bodybuilders and the young guys who want to get into it. But like what I've noticed as well, and I'm sure you have, is the appeal for like classic or men's physique. It's a little more. It doesn't look as difficult, and I think
yeah,
people want the easy physique, if that makes any sense.
yeah, because I think obviously, like, anyone who's like, I've been bodybuilding 10 years now, anyone will know who's been doing this a while, this doesn't happen overnight. Like this, you know, it takes a lot of time. So I think, yeah, obviously a lot of guys go to these shows and kind of catch that same bug that we did when we first started. We want to compete. So they're like, yeah, how can I do a show? Exactly. I can go into men's physique, or I'm only 83 kilos. I can jump into this category. But yeah, their weight might be their weight, but really, does their physique match what they have in their head, what they should have on stage, you know?
Yeah,
And that's kind of why you're seeing a lot of these categories and a lot of people, like you see men's physique at the RIBBF, and there could be like 40 guys there, like, you know what I mean? And when you actually skim the guys off the surface, there's still probably only 6 or 7 kind of decent lads there, like there would be at the juniors at our category. So
yeah,
you're just getting just the extra volume because it's kind of a quicker route to get onto stage more so than anything. And like, yeah, that can be a good thing too, because it can give guys you know, the actual stage experience and everything. Like, but I think if you really want to kind of get into bodybuilding and you want to kind of, I think just get a good coach, be patient, and kind of just do the basics: food, sleep, train like a maniac, sleep as much as you can every night, and just keep doing that every day for a couple of years, and then people will be saying to you, you should be getting on stage. That's when you kind of know if you've kind of if you're doing it right, like, you know what I mean, in my opinion.
No, absolutely, I agree with you. And I mean, like,
Yeah.
you first competed there in 2011. You won a junior title in the end, though, didn't you? You won.
Yeah, I came third in my first show. They did a spring classic in 2012. I came second to Blessing, and that was the year I was actually I actually got picked because I was in top three, and no other junior ever represented Ireland at the Europeans. So I kind of just said, "Look, guys, can I go?" Even though at the time, looking back, I was nowhere good enough, but
Right.
I, you know, but I got to go, like, because I asked the question, and because of that, then I won the juniors in 2013. I got to go again with Blessing, but I ended up being put in the wrong category. We got there late, and I actually ended up competing against Blessing in the heavyweights when I should have been in classic junior bodybuilding because of my weight. And it was just the way it went, but it was an experience I'll never forget. And because of that, that's kind of drove me on, because I've seen international juniors. I've seen these guys. They're bigger than some of the guys that were in the over 90s in Ireland. Like, so it's kind of like, what are these guys doing? And, you know, it just pushed me to kind of go, right, I need to kind of step it up now and just keep progressing every year. And then my time will come to go back there eventually, like, you know what I mean, when the time is right. But in between now and then, I have to put in the work, like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, what was the first show you hopped in as an open competitor? Was that 2017?
2015, I did the novice, and I won the novice in RIBBF. And the next day, I jumped into NABA was on the day after, so I jumped into the novice there as well. And that was a big class. There was like 27 guys, and I think Miguel, who had won the under 80s the day before as well, he came second, I came third, and Ronan Kerr, who I think he won the NABA Northern Ireland that year, he came first. So the standard of novice that year was very good in the NABA. And then after that, then I made the transition then in 2000. I took 2 years off, and I jumped into the over 90s in 2017, where I came fourth. There was Cervenka, Famous was in there, Remy. There was, you know, the kind of old veterans were there, and that kind of,
Same
I
guy.
got to kind of, yeah. So I got to kind of stand amongst them and see where I was, and kind of that's kind of what I do, see where I am. Then I could go back to work and keep going. I went back, obviously, last year was kind of the first year where I suppose there was actually a lot expected of me in some ways, and I was always the underdog. No one ever like talked about me before until last year, and that actually turned out to be a bad omen nearly last year, in fairness, because things didn't go to plan last year in a lot of ways. But at the same way, my progression in bodybuilding is getting bigger and better still was evident, like, you know what I mean. So when
Oh, for sure, man. Because I remember, like, what people don't realize is, like, there's not like, for anyone who's young and listening to this, like, bodybuilders tend to be within, like, a good level bodybuilder who wins shows will generally be above 5'7", in between 5'10". I think that's the sweet spot. So when
yeah,
you're a taller person, it takes that little bit of time to fill out the frame. But once the frame is filled up, the taller person is always going to be looked at more so than the shorter person if they're neck and neck.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
think you kind of hit you definitely haven't peaked, but you finally won your first open bodybuilding show in 2019. Like,
Yeah, well, I suppose we had the PCA Galway, which in fairness, there was only two. It was only me and Mendaukas in class one, and I got to jump into the overall after then, which is my first kind of taste of the overall, and
yeah,
that was frustrating because I felt I could have won that if I was a bit sharper, and that's all the judges said to me was I wasn't sharp enough, and
like I
I
mean,
just
that's,
wasn't ready. And
now that's the killer, man. Like, like, that's the one thing that, like, there's not a lot of things that get to me. But I would rather get told. No, it's weird because it's like it's always like that. Like conditioning is always going to win shows, but I personally think if you're in good enough condition, but you have the size to carry that condition, it's bodybuilding. I mean, I would rather somebody be 20 kilo. Like I had you doing better in that class in NABA. Like personally, I thought you should have placed higher. But it's like that I am gonna be biased because I'm your friend as well. So it's a bit I can't be too impartial. But do you feel it's just you tend to get overlooked just because you aren't as sharp sometimes as
No, like I suppose the funny thing for me is condition is coming up through the junior. I was always conditioned. That's what I was known for, and it was only funny when I started to actually grow and step from the novice into the open, where I suppose I was trying to play more the size game, and yeah, I was probably a little bit more focused on the scales and trying to hold my weight a little bit more. That condition, I haven't got that same crisp condition I did as a junior with this new tissue I have, and I just think that's just finding the balance and getting that maturity, and then because I think I would have got there last year. I think if there's a few things that came into play. Actually, I had a few things off my bloods, so I had a lot of estrogen problems, and I actually I got my bloods done after the show, and I actually found out basically that my estrogen and prolactin, progesterone was totally off, and
oh
because
shit.
when I was trying to get lean and try to cut back after PCA to kind of come in better for the nationals, I was just going flat, and that last bit of fat on my stomach that was normally the last bit to go was just not going, and I was like, oh, this is strange. This does not normally happen to me. So there was a reason, and then it was because I found it after. So I think now, obviously, with the extra tissue, and I suppose now that we're getting bigger, and a lot more things kind of come into play, a lot more variables than before as a junior. And I think, like me and Locke learned a lot last year for my body. So I think the next time when I'm going to be ready, I think I'm going to hopefully get that balance of both the size and the condition next time. And I just think
Yeah.
it's just time. You know, I haven't got the best genetics, and I think I know myself that this going to happen overnight. Like I need to just kind of say, forget about last year. I had big expectations of myself. Loads of other people did as well, but looking back, I made progress, but I just wasn't ready yet. Like my whole thing in my mind last year was the nationals. I had Thomas Cervenka in my head last year, and that's being totally honest too, because I got to stand beside him in 2017, and it
Yeah.
wasn't a million miles away. But in fairness to him, he made serious progress in 2 years, and I was kind of say I've made progress too. And it wasn't till after NABA when I realized, look, things aren't going right. I'm not going to be the best Connor I can be this year. And when I went to the nationals, I got to see Brian Murphy, who I was training with at the time, compete as well, and I got to see Cervenka in the flesh. And I knew well, even if I was at my best last year, I wouldn't have beaten him. So I was
Yeah.
kind of like, I was happy in my mind. I made that decision to kind of say, right, let's pull the plug on it now and get back and kind of get back to the drawing board and wait till I am ready, you know, that kind of way. So
Yeah.
because that's what it's about. You have to be honest with yourself, you know, too.
Oh,
And I
100%.
was
100%. And like I'll go back to Galway. It's like like looking back at pictures and being there and stuff like talking about like Brian won he won the RBBF under 75s, didn't he? In the end.
yeah, under 70s.
Under 70s, deadly.
Yeah,
So like what happened was me and Brian compete like for anyone listening, me and Brian competed in the class 4. There was actually a class 4.
yeah,
Uh, and the first class 4 show in Ireland in about oh god since the mid 2000s. So I remember it was me, Brian, and Miguel, and I came last. And I was looking at the pictures and I was like, you know what? Like there's just certain times where it's not even that you're not in condition, but it's like you're holding water or you're not quite there yet, or like when you're lean, like it's so hard to fuck up because you're in that
yeah,
state. When you're
yeah.
like 80% there, you
That's
have
what
to,
that's sort. Yeah, And
Like,
that's exactly what happened to me. When you do the carb up, you mess around your water. If you're not 100%, like
yeah,
I was all them times, but I was never big enough, but I was always ready. And I do my little carb load or whatever, and everything. I'd be dry. I'd look as good as I can be. But last year, that did not happen. If you're at 80%, 90%, that happens. You're going to be off. You know what I mean? And that's where the condition really shows. And if you're on bigger guys and you have more muscle mass, you're going to hold more water. And you know what I mean? It's going to show straight away. My waist blew out and everything. Like I look so much better in the morning when I was drier, and as soon as the carbs went in, and because there was still fat there, everything just blew out, and it just made my physique look so much more worse than what I could have put on stage. But it
yeah.
just wasn't meant to be.
Do you think it would have been better off if you had just walked in and like just on a low carb, no carb
Yeah.
up, go in and do the show, no carb up, no water, just just eat a regular
Yeah,
meal.
looking back at the time, yeah, because I was probably at PCA, I think it was 3 weeks out from the RIBBF, but
Yeah,
realistically, at that time, I was 3 weeks out, so I shouldn't have done what I'd done for PCA, even though looking back at the pictures and the fullness and the physique I brought, if it was drier, I actually liked that look. And I think if I did that same carb up when I was ready, it would have worked. But
yeah,
after PCA, I had to drop the water. I had to go on protein only for 6 days to be ready in time for NABA. And I
yeah,
flattened out completely. And we tried to do the carb up for 24 hours. And even at NABA, I didn't have that same pop. I lost the pop in my upper body. And that's my problem because I don't have that fullness and haven't filled out my upper body yet. That's the first thing to go. And my legs stay there and I can go very flat. So across the front double bicep and my front relaxed poses, I can look like a dinner plate. And that's
yeah,
kind of, and that's why I got overlooked, because I was flat and I just I wasn't ready.
yeah. Where did you place in that show?
I came third in the NABA one after, yeah.
Yeah. No, but that's see, I mean, like it's good to hear, like, because like I mean, even when I competed, I know I outweighed Miguel and Brian by at least 10 kilos of muscle, but they just bought better. They were just the presentation with the tan. They were both dry enough that they you know what I mean. They were both
Yeah,
dry enough that they
yeah.
didn't have any water retention or anything. So looking back on it, I was like, at the time I was fuming. Then I look back on it, I was like, you know what? At the time, they just bought it. It's literally about that.
And that's the thing.
Like,
It's you have to bring in that day. We can all look good the day after or the week
yeah,
before, but if the guys come in and bring it in, and that's what them guys did that day against me. And there's other days you could come in and beat them, but that's bodybuilding for you. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
you just have to accept it and kind of take it on the chin and go, all right, now I know what to do next time, and go back in the gym, get back training and eating. Because that's what I love. I love the training. I love living the lifestyle, to me, and that's
yeah,
kind of why I think I've made the progress over the last 10 years, just because I live it every day. It's part of my routine now. And I think if
yeah.
you can do that and build it into your routine, that's where you will make the progress.
Yeah, talking about progression and routine though, when you got started in bodybuilding, obviously you had your friend who won the juniors in the end with you. But did you have was there any older bodybuilders in the area? Like any mentor kind of people?
Yeah, well, believe it or not, we were training at Max Fitness, and there was a few guys in the gym that competed before, but so we kind of had some bit of knowledge, but at the same time, it was very fresh. And if you look at their ideas compared to now, in some ways, you'd say, okay, that they weren't that good, like, you know. But at the time as well, a few weeks out, we started training with a guy called Eddie Dunn, who was a great under-70s bodybuilder at the time. He had an old gym out the back of his house, so we trained legs there.
So,
And he used to just kind of have a look at us, like, but yet we were kind of doing our own thing. Like, I remember I used to just cook chicken fillets, and I'd be actually working on site at the time when I was actually labouring, and I'd actually have the chicken fillets in my pocket, and sometimes I wouldn't have time to stop, so I'd be eating them like out of tin foil in my pocket. Like, and there was days
um,
I'd have no carbs, and I was only 60 kilos, and I should be eating carbs, and I didn't know I had to. Just silly things like that, looking back, you know.
yeah,
But I got in shape, and you know what I mean. So, you know, that's why you just have to suffer sometimes, and that's
yeah,
the big thing.
100%. But as a junior, when you're holding less tissue, it's definitely easier to get leaner.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Like
it is.
hell, like
Yeah,
miss those days, man. I remember the first time I competed as a junior. I still wasn't shredded, but it was a lot easier to get in that state. Like for
yeah.
you, what did your diets consist of back then? I mean, was it just chicken and veg kind of situation? Or
Yeah, chicken and broccoli most of the time, and eggs in the morning, and then a couple of scoops away after training, and I
yeah,
might have 60 grams of oats or something like that, and it was very basic. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like I used to just buy chicken fillets in bulk and just cook them all in the oven, and that was a be sorted. Like you know what I mean? It was very simple looking back. Obviously nowadays with a lot more coaches, a lot more knowledge, food's a little bit more timed and complex, and I suppose we've all kind of adjusted to that now as we've all went along. And it's good to be able to have that knowledge now, because looking back, if we had the knowledge we had now when we first started, we'd probably be all different bodybuilders now at this
yeah, man.
stage, kind of
Like I go on my walks every day, and it's like I think about it, like, but I don't think about it in the way of regret. I'm kind of
no.
like it's definitely kind of like looking forward. It's all gonna be um progression in some form. I mean, especially after the lockdown. I mean, I doubt the shows in October will happen. I mean, I hope
No, I
they
can't see you.
but the upside of that is the spring shows will be absolutely jam packed. I think
Yeah,
that'll be the best spring classic in 4 years because
yeah.
it hasn't been as good. The muscle contest will be jammers and PCA Belfast will be jammers as well. But you're not competing this year, are you? You're going to be taking a year.
No, my plan was April next year provisionally anyway. So if Locke's kind of happy by Christmas or where we're at, that means it's kind of better for me, because I love competing against the best of the best. You know yourself,
Yeah,
like it was great. Mindaugas is a great bodybuilder, but it was both deflating for both of us just to stand in there and compete against each other for a class one title when there's just two of us, like you know what I mean. So
yeah. It's not
I,
the
I
same. It's
no.
not the same. Like, I
You've put
mean,
in all this work, and yeah, you see some guys who come home and go, yeah, I came first place, and some guys, there's no one else in their category. Like, for me, bodybuilding and going to compete is going to compete against the best. You know what I mean, and the best guys out there. So the more the merrier, and I think this could be really good for bodybuilding next year if things work out like that, and the spring classic and them shows are filled. Like it'll be really good.
yeah. I mean, I won't be doing that. I'll be doing national. Like, it was actually Christian who sat down with me, um, and Niall Kinsella, and they just said, "Oh, just do NABA 2021. Just do an extra 6 months off season and just have a go at that." And I was like, just get your confidence before stepping into like a pro qualifier.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like for sure. And but I think um but I like the different shows that have emerged in the country are great. I mean, the PCA came in 4 years ago now. Um, I think it's 4 years ago. There's two PCA shows. There's one NABA show, two NABA shows if you count the Northern Ireland
Ireland as well, yeah.
RIBBF shows. Um, do you feel like as such a small country, do you feel because there's so much more, like there's pure elite and all those things as well. Do you think the shows have kind of the numbers aren't as big in each show because there's more shows to do?
Yeah, sometimes, but if you look back, even when I was competing, um, like most of the guys you'd see at the RBBF a week later, if the NABA was on, you'd see all them same guys backstage too. So, um, it's a bit of everything, I suppose. I think it's just there's so many shows out there. Then the guys, exactly, you see some guys now that are skipping the nationals and going to these qualifiers and that as well. And you know what I mean? And if they want to do that, they want to do that. But I think like when you go back and you even look at it in England to like when you used to win the overall BFF, that's where you got your pro card back then. And that's
Yeah,
why it was so prestigious. Like you look at likes of Luke Sando, James Hollinghead, all, you know, that's how they got it. And now in some ways there's 20 pro qualifiers now or whatever. There's 3 or 4 in England every year, and there's 20 in Europe that you can hop to. Like it's kind of making the pro card and kind of making that step a little less prestigious in some ways. But it's good because it's giving people that chance and opportunity too, because the cream always rises to the top anyway. So,
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
you
that's a
know,
point. That's a very strong point I was making to somebody the other day. It's like, eh, I don't think it's a bad thing at all that there's more pro shows, because I think the guys who are winning, okay, I mean, like, let's say it's a guy who won one of the four like the four qualifiers in the UK. He may have turned pro, he probably was going to turn pro in the original situation anyway. Just would have taken a bit more time because there was only one pro card.
yeah,
Whereas in Ireland, there was only one way out, and that was through the RBBF, flying you to the Europeans. And if you won the overall Europeans, you turned pro, or you did the Ireland Classic. And again, it was the overall. And I think there was already one thing in place with the old federation. It was if you won two weight classes internationally, you then turned pro as well. But there was no Irish pros because of that. I mean, it was so hard to turn professional.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, like Vinny did it, but he was the only person really. But Blessing did it. He turned pro what, like four times?
yeah. I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
Blessing's just a different breed altogether. Yeah,
Yeah. But back then, there was definitely, like, Ireland definitely had some people who would have done okay. I mean, you had Billy Byrne. I think he would have been a decent 2-on-2. I
yeah,
mean, and the right maybe if he had kept going.
yeah.
But
He probably had one of the best potential out of the whole country, but yeah, he just didn't keep pushing on or had that. And he probably would have made it definitely. He had, you know, I remember them pictures from seeing him when I first started from Malta in 2008 with him and Tommy Staunton, like, and
crazy.
you know, he was phenomenal, like, you know,
He made his comeback. Remember, he made his comeback.
yeah,
Like, it was like 2013 or something.
yeah,
Didn't look bad, but he wasn't the
no,
same. Wasn't the
no.
same.
And I think someone like who's out a game that long, you need to kind of get, you know, a flow of shows and a good, you know, kind of run behind your back to get back to your best at that stage, like, because
I
he
mean,
was still young enough, but
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. But talking about coming up through the ranks, you do your own? You did your own junior preps, but
uh,
or did you
first,
have a coach?
the first prep I did my own. In 2012, then I don't know how I actually bumped into you know, Gianni, um, Relu Gaukau, yeah, from
Yeah.
Carlo. So I started training in Olympia gym for a while. He prepped me for 2012 against Blessing that time.
Okay.
That was that. I trained in Carlo probably for about a year and a half. And he helped me then as well for 2013 as a junior. So he helped me for my two junior years, and then after that, Brian Hickey prepped me for the novice in 2015,
Okay.
and then in 2017 I was with Brian as well. I went back. I used to do my own thing in the off season because I used to just like doing my own thing. Kind of like I know what to do. I just eat, sleep, train. You know what I mean? And then I used to go to Brian then to help me get in shape. So he got me in shape for 2017. That was my first time in the open class. And then obviously I'm working with Lock Gannon now.
You worked with Jordan Peters as well for a bit, didn't you, as well, in between?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I worked with Jordan after 2017, straight after coming off stage. Literally the next day, I emailed Jordan. I sent over pictures and go, look, like I'm in the open class now. I came forward yesterday. I'm still not big enough. Help me, basically. Like, and he was the kind of go-to guide, and his guys were making all the changes then, in fairness. So I worked with him probably for close to a year before I moved to Lock. But I kind of got what I wanted from Jordan, and it kind of just instilled in my mind what I was doing was right. But I suppose he was just push, push, push with the food. And I suppose because that was the first time I had check-ins every week in the off season as well. And I think that was a big thing for me, because even though I knew what I was doing was right, but just to have the accountability of to know that you're checking in every week just makes you, I'm not going to miss a meal. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to back off anything here. And it turns your off season into kind of that prep mode. And I think to make real progress, that's what you need. And that's kind of what I did with Jordan. But then I think Jordan was actually trying to get his own pro card towards the end of that summer. And I found he was a little bit busy and a little bit distracted. And at that time, Locke was open in the gym. And to be honest, I became good friends with Locke in the meantime while I was working with Jordan anyway. And Locke was kind of helping me anyway and kind of looking at me in the flesh. So I was kind of like, this is silly, to be honest. Like, Locke was one of the biggest guys in Ireland, knows exactly, came from somewhere where I did, from a skinny guy to now Mr. Universe. I was like, why am I sending stuff to Jordan who can't even see me in the flesh, and when I have Locke here to look at me? And you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I made that change. It was an obvious one, you know what I mean? And it was kind of one I was like, I should have done nearly straight away. But now we've formed a good partnership, and we're making really good progress now over the last year and a half or so.
Deadly man. Now, Locke was I had like a few people in mind to work with. Locke was one of them, and we had a good chat. And I'll be having him on this as well, but never ended up working together. It just got like, from working with him, for me anyway. I like doing my own thing in the off season.
Yeah.
Then I kind of just on my ideas through Niall Kinsella now.
Yeah.
And then training with him as well. And then during prep, I'll do my own prep, but I'll just have a second eye.
Some eyes, yeah.
Yeah, but what Locke does is phenomenal. Locke is very much, what he offered me was like, it wasn't too pricey. It was like, that's not the main thing. The main thing was, he said, it was completely changed the way you train, completely changed everything for you. So do you find do you think you needed that? You needed somebody to really challenge the way you did things, force that?
Yeah, and I suppose someone that you know who's kind of walked the walk, and that's the big thing for me. Locke, I want to get big. You know, who am I going to go to? Am I going to go to a guy who's an online coach and only weighs 70 kilos soaking wet? No, I'm going to go to a guy who knows how to get big, because he's proven it. He's gotten big. So, and that was the one thing for me. I suppose when I first started, like I was looking at the likes of Ender Wright, Loch Gannon, Cottle Tiernan was a big one from Galway as well. And these were the guys I want to be, because I was a tall, skinny guy. So these were the guys I always looked up to. So that it was kind of like, in some ways, Locke was a big role model to me anyway. So it was just kind of like, yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. Maybe this is what I need now to help me get the best out of my genetics, to help me become the best I can be. Because in fairness to Locke has made every mistake possible probably in prep. So that's a good thing too, because he knows where all them little pitfalls are and can work around them, like, and has gone through all them times. So like, it's good to have someone who I can relate to in that way as well, not just as a coach as well, but as a bodybuilder too. So that's one thing he's offered me, and he's the same kind of principle as me anyway, with the food and everything. So we kind of just gel well together, and I can bounce things off him. And then obviously he brings his knowledge then with the training, I suppose, and how articulate he is with the different types of like rep ranges, tension, stuff that I just would never really focus on before. I used to go in and just go mad really, and until I knew I was broke. But now I'm kind of doing it in a more kind of set approach, that at least it's kind of on paper it is kind of, it looks right in some ways, and it's starting to kind of show in my physique now over the last year, definitely. So
Yeah, I mean, I definitely find like during the lockdown anyway, the only training I can do is all the isolation, all the extra stuff is all the stuff I can do. But I'm like, learning that, when you apply that kind of training to the basic stuff, that's when you grow. It's like,
yeah,
it's literally stuff that enables you to connect with the muscle, and use the muscle to become stronger at a movement. Don't become stronger at a movement for the sake of it. I mean,
no, we're not power lifters.
No. I mean, we've trained together, and it's always been heavy, but it's always been high intensity training. It's now the volume wasn't mad by any standards at all. Do you find with yourself that works, like the higher intensity stuff? Like, have you
Yeah, well,
done volume before?
in some ways, I'm actually doing my training now is a little bit of mix. There's like low volume, there is high volume in there as well, so it's a bit of mix of everything. I think I trained push pull for so long as well, and as a tall guy, I don't think that's a good idea for someone with long arms and that as well. And now, in the last year, I suppose, is even since just competing last October, we've really combed in on my arms, and I actually have a full arm day for the first time ever, to be honest. So, and now my arms are actually starting to grow a little bit. So, and I'm actually training them with a lot of higher volume, similar to like, because I was to chat to Darren Farrell about this, who we have on the next podcast, but that's where he swore by higher volume for arms as well, and that's how he made his gains as well. And he would have trained in the same heavy, high intensity approach as me, and then he needed to make that change. And I think now I'm kind of seeing where you need to apply certain different principles of training to your body, because there is no set way. I think if anyone who eats right and sleeps well and trains hard in any approach, I think are going to make progress. Like, but it all depends. Each body parts might won't get the same out of that same type of training. Like, because you see that my back and legs now, I could do anything and they'll probably respond, because the mind muscle connection is very good. But my chest, shoulders, arms, I need a little bit more kind of volume to try and really fatigue them. And it's everybody's different, like, you know what I mean? And that's why I think a lot of people need to kind of just forget about, like, oh, there's still only this one type of training, like, you know what I mean? There's not. I think you have to train hard and find what works for you, and give it time, and within a few weeks you'll know what's working or not, like, you know what I mean? And I think that's obviously where a good coach comes in hand as well, because
100%, and like you'd be no, you'd be bang on there. I mean, I found like certain body part, like I did push pull legs for, I think it was like a year and a half, and it's like I was at my strongest in the compounds then, for sure. With certain movements. So like my bench press was stupid back then. That was kind of it. Like, my bench press was really good, and then everything else was the same as it is now. So, but the irony being is, once I stopped benching and flat benching, that's kind of when I changed up the training for push, and wouldn't be as strong in certain movements, but I'm bigger.
Yeah, and I think that's like, what we have to.
Yeah.
We have to remember as bodybuilders. I love being strong.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but my knees are fucked from squatting heavy during the up and coming times as well. Yeah. And my favorite thing to do is squat heavy, but I can't even really do that now. But actually, since I've stopped doing that, because I've had no choice with Locke, and Locke really homes in leg training. Locke knows all about leg training, as you know yourself. My legs look better now than they ever before, and I think it just shows that you can build good legs without heavy squatting too. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. I mean, like even like I'll never. I don't. I actually only got good at squatting during the last 3 years. Before that, I never went over 140. Like, I mean, the max I go 140, 150. But what I figured out was I would wrap my knees now a certain way, so it's not actually affecting the flexion and tension of the muscle. It's just a bit of pressure on the patella and stuff, the kneecap, so it's just no pain when I'm squatting. But it took me 4 years to cop that on. I would never wear wraps. I was so stubborn. I would never wear wraps.
Yeah, it's like the reverse band hack squats you see everyone doing now as well. Great movement, loads of quads, and when you're in that hole where the weight is normally on your knee joint and the patella tendon, it's not there, and you can keep the load on the quad. And my training with that Arsenal strength hack squat we have in the gym, Monster Evan, I love that machine. You can go heavy on it, and you can just load the quads completely as well. So,
but do you think now, like, let's talk a little bit about you're obviously training. Your main gym is the gym Monster Evan. So run by Glenn and Julie Brereton. If anyone's looking, they also have the Newbridge facility which just opened before the lockdown. I never got out. It looks savage. Is
Yeah,
Carlo open yet, or is
no.
Carlo? No.
Carlo probably would have been open if this lockdown didn't come. So I'm sure, you know what I mean? I'm sure everything's kind of ready to push the button when things start being lifted from August anyway. So it'll probably be September-ish maybe by the time we see it. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's going to be even bigger and better according to Glenn. So I'm excited to see. And the handy thing is I'm in Port as well. So I'm literally Carlo, Newbridge, Monster Evan are all within 40 minutes of me, you know what I mean? Maximum. So it's dead handy.
Yeah, Newbridge is an hour from my
Yeah.
house through the countryside, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I can bypass. I can go to Newbridge and bypass the rush hour entirely.
Go
So
through
I'm
Blessington and across that way, yeah.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Like I haven't been now obviously like with Glenn, what he's doing is great. The only issue with me being there was it's too far away from me. It was just too far away with work to get there as much as I could have. Um, but with yourself and Shane and Brian and even myself when I was there all the time, he'd be one of the few gym guys who does welcome competitive bodybuilding, and he puts the trophies up and puts everything up. And how do you feel that's affected your bodybuilding journey? Like it's been
Yeah,
positive?
very, very positive. Sure. Like my old gym in Port, in fairness, I had all the basics, but like as soon as Monster Evan opened up there, I remember going up that first Christmas when it opened, and Glenn was there. The gym wasn't even opened at the time. He was still finishing off, and that was my first time to meet Glenn. And I remember him saying to me, he said, "Look, yeah, we're not open in January, but we're going to be visually open next week, so you can come in here and train for the first few weeks for free and see how you like it." And I never went back to my old gym since then. You know what I mean? And I suppose Glenn, Julie, everyone in there, there's such a good vibe in there. Everyone's nothing but welcoming. And like you said, he has a passion for bodybuilding too. Obviously, being friends with Tommy and kind of understands the whole thing. He loves training himself. So that was all good for all of us. Like, and the good thing for me is like Shane, the likes of guys that I knew still all kind of followed and came to the gym too. So we were all kind of back together in this new super gym with, equipment we've never seen before. And like that's only just helped open up new horizons altogether then as well. So
Yeah, see, I'm spoiled for choice up where I am. Like I have Go Gym near me, which is ran by Jay Abbey. It's a very similar situation to Glenn. He has 3 gyms across the country, and like he's always let me in for free. And like I
yeah,
was gonna work for him, but obviously like I can't work until the gyms are open, so I'm just waiting for that. But
yeah,
like you get people like that. But again, I was spoiled in Dublin and Wicklow. Like I have access to everything really within 40 minutes. But where you are, it's definitely a case of these new gyms are opening up, and they're a lot bigger, a lot spacier. I mean, Carlo looks to be huge, and all the competitive people come to Monaster Evan anyway. I mean,
yeah.
like you'd always see somebody, no matter what.
Yeah, it's every weekend, Saturday or Sunday, you come in there. Could see Josh Kyle from the north down. You see loads. It's great. You know what I mean? And that's the best thing about it, because before that there was only me and whoever else that was locally competing in our little gym in nowhere. But now this is kind of opened up, and between everything now with social media and everything, we're all kind of together, I suppose, and we can all bounce off each other, and we get the opportunity to train together with the best equipment and stuff. So it's really good in that way. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Now, like talking about training though, you obviously have a full-time job, but outside of the full-time job, you do take on clients.
Yeah.
How's that going for you?
Yeah, well, I just on the side, yeah, I just started kind of after the show in October. I suppose used to get the odd question here and there, do I ever take on anyone? And I'm so busy at work with my own family business that I was never kind of never really thought about it properly. And it was kind of after the NABA show, I got hounded with loads of messages, and I kind of said, hang on a minute, maybe I should be doing this, because most of the time I end up, if people ask me a question, I end up spending whatever, either voice them back or sending a message. So I was like, kind of like, yeah, why not try this for a while? Like, you know what I mean? Obviously, with work now, I've worked my way up the ladder where I'm now a director, and I kind of have that little bit more time as well. So
you're reaping the rewards, man. You're like, people don't understand. It's like, I tell people this all the time. You literally, you have to work hard to be able to enjoy it. I mean, it's like, it took me years to get into a position in work where I could plan my bodybuilding life around it. I mean,
yeah.
but it takes time, and I think there's only three ways. There's only a couple of ways to do bodybuilding and work. Is either get into a position in your current job where you can eat and around your schedule, or just quit your job, or the third option, go into a job like I have done now, which is, full-time coaching.
Yeah.
But you've kind of shown, you don't necessarily need to give up on your current avenue of income, which is non-bodybuilding related, like, entirely. And you can still be a successful competitor. I mean, do you think too many people are, you know, they're making excuses, like they're saying, oh, it's their job, or oh, it's their family? Do you think it's like people just look for reasons not to do it? Like,
Yeah, like, I suppose a lot, like, in this day and age, there is a lot of people that are coming up that are possibly mollycoddled, and there's like and always looking for an easy way out in life compared to before. Like, even our parents would say that to us when we were growing up. You should have seen it back in the day, how tough
yeah,
we had it. Like, it's kind of, it's a natural thing, like, you know what I mean? And you look, I suppose Tony Mount is the perfect example. He was a stonemason. He was building walls all day,
yeah,
and the guy was having no cars probably, and was shredded and one of the best bodybuilders in the country. Like, so I think you just have to be patient and plan. Like, luckily for me now, in the last 3 4 years, I've worked my way up now where I got into the office, and then eventually now I'm up in management. So there was the first 5 years of my bodybuilding, I was working on the floor as a cabinet maker, and I was out on site fitting the stairs, or you know what I mean. So I just had my food with me. No matter what, I'd have it cooked, ready, and just there. And sometimes I wouldn't have to. I remember one time I couldn't eat, and I'd say, I'm not going to be able to eat today. I may just bring 6 scoops away with me, you know what I mean, and have 3 shakes, and then I'll just have a big meal later. There was always a way. It might not be the most ideal way, but if you just plan and work around it,
yeah,
you'll make it work. And I think that's what people need to do, and you just need to stop overthinking it. And because, like, now, I suppose there's so much avenues to express the way to train and do this, but people have overcomplicated this thing so much in some ways. And I think this COVID-19, this thing, to anyone who can train now, luckily enough, like myself, I think you really realize once you have the basics, that's all you need. You know what I mean? And like, and that's what any young guy starting out needs to do. And that's why I kind of wanted to get into coaching, because the most of the guys that message me are only 17 or 18. And I remember being that 20-year-old starting in the gym and looking around at these bigger guys in the gym that were powerlifters, and kind of like, Jesus, you know what I mean? And we had to find our way. But now I'm kind of like, well, now if someone would have reached out to me when I was that age and kind of shown me the light, you know what I mean, how much of a help that would have been now for me, or where would I have been now? So I think that's why I kind of wanted to get into it, to give back that little bit, because I was that skinny kid with a dream before as well. And I think, you know what I mean, there is lots of guys out there that with potential that just need that little bit of direction. And I think, you know, if that's done right, in 5 6 years, we'll see a lot of good juniors again, and bodybuilding will be great again. Because another thing is, like, you see, everyone's comparing Ireland to England for bodybuilding, and you're looking at some of the great pros coming out of England, but you forget, what's the population of Ireland like? You know what I mean? And what's the population of London? It's twice the size of Ireland. So
yeah,
it's, Ireland is only, like, if you moved all the people in Ireland, you're only going to fill Birmingham in England. Like, so you know, people need to forget that too, and kind of, you know, we really need to focus on ourselves here, and like, this is great, this podcast now, putting out content for guys and for younger guys that are up and coming, to hear the likes of all these pros. Like, you have Shane, you have Vinny, you have Darren Farrell coming on, you're speaking of bringing on Locke, like, all these guys who can offer advice. And I think if you're young now and you're starting off, you should have your mind as a sponge and soak up whatever you can, because
Yeah.
in the long run, it's all going to pay off, like, you know.
I mean, we were lucky enough. I mean, coming up, I mean, I remember oh geez, I think it was like about year number 2 into my training, Irish Muscle popped up. So the
Yeah.
boards there were great. You could talk to everyone who was competing was on it, in
Yeah, I
fairness.
loved Irish Muscle. I got to train. I got to shoot a video in Galway, a blessing with Irish Muscle, like, and
I
that
remember
was,
that's
yeah,
still
that was,
that's still
yeah,
up. Like if I mean, I remember watching the shows and you could see, like, I mean, 2014 was the last
live stream
full
probably,
stream.
yeah, yeah,
But I mean, that's why I kind of did this podcast. It's like, you know what? It's like there's plenty of Irish media. It's just that there's no bodybuilders putting out content or interviewing anyone or getting general discussions. And I think the general end goal is, it was for October. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But for spring, I want to record the top 3, do an interview with the top 3 live at the show, and do a little backdrop and everything. Do what Irish Muscle used to do. So just give the competitors a bit of, a bit of fun. I mean, come off
yeah,
stage, but that's what it needs. But the thing is, the UK is like, when I went to the PCA finals, it was like a pro show in the way that it had its own. It was like watching an expo. It was an expo.
yeah,
Ireland is just too small to really have that, because there's not enough people involved to create that. I mean, we have the Irish Muscle Power. That's it. I mean, that wasn't even on this year, I don't think. Was
no,
it?
I don't. It could have been planned, but obviously, yeah, it didn't happen. But yeah, I just think it takes, like, guys like yourself. It takes a few people to do it, and then you see everyone follow suit. Like, and that's
Yeah.
kind of like, that's the Irish mentality in some ways. There is, like, you know, like anything, you know, sheep will follow sheep eventually, and then that's where a market gets saturated, and that's where things get better, and that's what's happened in UK. But now the same thing. There's lots of guys trying to do this, but the guys that are really good are now coming to the surface, and you're seeing that, and that's why you're seeing this really good content, and you know what I mean. And I think Ireland will get there in time, and I just think, because I think the shows and the standard is getting so much better. So it just takes, like, the likes of you to start to do this, and you know, I think in a few years we'll start seeing more of this. So if we can get, like, you know, like what Irish Muscle used to do, these interviews and these training videos again, I think it will offer an awful lot more, and I think it will help inspire a lot of other people to get involved and go as well. A
Yeah.
lot of younger guys that are probably on the fence too, you know.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the young guys I would talk to now, obviously in the Dublin region, there is a few junior bodybuilders. I mean, and there's a few like decent junior bodybuilders for sure. I'm not knocking on any of the current juniors at all, but because they're doing it, I fully support them. What I always find interesting is in a lot of the young guys I would talk to, they're on the fence and they want to do men's physique as their first show, and I'm kind of like, really? It's like, do you really want to do men's physique? And I'm like, do you really like the way that physique looks? In which case, fair enough, do it. Or do you think it's just because it looks mainstream or it suits? I prepped 2 guys for the nationals last year. No, one for nationals, one for, he did a competition in America. But it was like, they did it for social media. They didn't do
Yeah,
it because they wanted to do it. I think
yeah,
that's why a lot of young guys are going into different divisions, because they're following the trend. They're not doing it because they really want to.
yeah. And
Um,
that's what happens with anything. That if something looks cool to do in this day and age, you know, people will do it because it looks cool, and because, but like, they'll eventually fall off the ladder anyway. And then, you know, like I said, the guys that are still doing it will always rise to the top, and you'll see them progressing. You know what I mean? Still, so
so look, we'll
yeah,
blast into some of the questions anyway, man. So the first one I got on my end was from Darren Farrell, and it was basically, we kind of talked about it before, but it was, how influential has Locke been on your career since working with him? So how long? How much of yeah, just how much influence has he played in your bodybuilding?
Yeah, well, I suppose before, he always was an influence before I even started working anything. So that was kind of the first, I suppose, step in some ways anyway, because I admired him. He was always known for his legs too. And as a junior, I was known for his legs. So I kind of made that comparison in my head in some ways.
Yeah,
Obviously, I'm still a long way off, but that was one thing that always kind of, no, I remember coming off stage at the NAB, the Novice, and I remember actually I went to the Jacks and went for a piss, and next thing Locke comes in and he were pissing beside me, and he just said to me like, legs look great. And then like that was, hearing that from him was like, that was better. I remember running out and telling my mother and father, saying like, you know what I mean, what Locke Gannon said to me, like, you know what I mean, and that was nearly the icing on my cake, even after winning the Novice the day before. That made my weekend. And it's a funny story, but like since Locke has started working with me, I suppose he's drilled in how into me, I suppose, training especially. And because I was always like heavy and just go mental, go training, and I still think you need that. But Locke kind of got that and kind of, I suppose, pulled that in together and kind of said, look, well, we can do this, but we can do it in a more controlled way.
yeah,
And obviously his knowledge is so broad across all different types of training styles, and he's tried and tested everything. So like his programs he put together are very precise, and for me, he knows where I'm lagging, especially. So, he was able to home in on the areas we need to improve. And like one thing Locke is known for is his adductors, and that's one thing that's grown from me. And it's one thing I never would have I would have really done before or focused too much on. It was just squats, leg extensions, hand. But now, like my legs, if you measure them in size, don't look or aren't much bigger, but yet they look so much bigger just because of that extra dimension. So I think that's one thing Locke really brought to me. Was the kind of was the training, and then obviously because I went and seen him win the universe as well. Like that's one day that will always stick in my mind as well, because I know that was his lifelong dream when he first started bodybuilding, and I got to witness that, and to see how much it meant to him, and to know myself how much he put into that to get there, and all the time that all the shit we do day in day out, as boring and as plain as crazy as it seems to some people, if that's what you want to do and you put the work in and you get it, like nothing will ever beat that feeling. Like, so like just little things like that have kind of have kind of spurred me on, and that's kind of why one of the, I suppose the biggest thing, yeah, that's helped me since starting with Locke, really. Yeah.
yeah. No, Locke has gone on to like he's won the Ireland, he's won the universe. I mean, last time I talked to him, he's taking a bit of time off anyway. He won't be competing soon. But I
No.
mean, but that being said, I mean the importance that having look, I think there's two ways you can go about it. I think when you're young, you're gonna grow anyway. I mean, your body's so fresh, you're gonna grow anyway. A coach will literally just help you not do the stupid things that you generally do when you're starting. But you'll get to the same result at the end of the day after a couple of years. But what Locke, like a coach like Locke, when you're at a certain level, that's when you need somebody. You need a second eye.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
And
it doesn't matter.
someone,
Doesn't matter. Like
yeah,
you need. No.
no, and someone with an honest eye as well, and someone who's going to give you that proper feedback, because there's lots of coaches out there, I suppose, that are just coaching people because, sad to say, because they want this many clients, and I have 17 clients competing at this show, and you know what I mean, and they're going to tell you look great no matter what. But
Yeah.
like if you want to get to that next level and you're not looking your best, your coach should be telling you that, like, you know what I mean. And that's the thing. And Locke is very honest with me, and that's kind of where we said after this, we said like, look, we're going to compete when you're ready this time, and you know, when I feel you're ready. And that's kind of what I want to hear too. And it's kind of just instill be that keep doing what we're doing now, and when the time comes. I have that confidence because I know when I check in every week, I know any changes he makes, I can see them happening, or I can feel them happening. You know what I mean? Within a few weeks. So everything what we've done over this last while is working. So it's just having that confidence from someone who has that experience and has walked the walk. Just is the influence really at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And that's the big thing for me.
Yeah. No, that's I've not a lot to say. I would have pretty much said that the same way. But that ties well into the next question. So we both got sent a text from what was your man's name? Sean?
Sean
Yeah.
Murphy, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Let me just have it. I have it here. Sean Murphy. And it said basically, hey, I'm 17 years old. My dream is to get into bodybuilding. I don't really know anything of how to get into it. Do you have any tips? And I said, we just answer it now. So basically, what I would say, Sean, for yourself, like when you're starting out at 17, all you really need to do is just eat a lot of good food. Like make sure you're getting in around. If you're in school because you're 17, eat your 2 meals in school. Maybe after school, have another meal or pre-workout shake or something. I generally just say when you're that young, just eat like 3 or 4 solid meals, drink a couple of shakes, and then just kind of you can get away with doing push-pull legs when you're a young guy, or even upper lower, and just get a feel for the weights, get a feel for the environment. But I mean, yeah, that's basically it. I mean, like it's just consistency with the food and the training, and maybe talk to somebody in your gym who is experienced, and ask if you can hop in and train with them or get a coach, just so you don't have to go over that awkward phase of not knowing what to do. What about yourself? What would you have to say to Sean?
Yeah, so I suppose what you said there, I suppose I actually looked at his page there, and it looks like he has a good base. He's training. He's young. He's 17. He looks like whatever he's doing is working now. So all I'll say to you is, look, I didn't start till I'm 20, and I'm 30 years of age next month. And like, if you want to be a bodybuilder, you have to be in this for the long haul. Like, it's bodybuilding. You just can't be a bodybuilder for 6 months or a year. You have to do this if this is going to be your lifestyle. So like what I would say to him is just keep doing what you're doing now. Remember that the junior category is under 23. So I think keep doing what you're doing for another year or two. Maybe when you're 18 or 19, in the meantime, maybe approach what you're saying, another guy in the gym who is a bodybuilder, get a few tips. But I think when the time comes that you feel like, okay, I want to compete now, I think go to a knowledgeable coach who's competed before, who has a reputation, and they will say, okay, Sean, yeah, actually, we can get ready now, or look, no, you're better off waiting until next year, and we'll do this. And then I think then that's literally how you get into it. And you know, you'll be guided by someone in the right way. You'll eventually compete as a junior, and then you'll fall into the whole bug like we did and get to meet everyone. And that's how it kind of continues. And you'll either love it or you don't. And you know,
I mean, like when I was 17, man, I'd already been training as a bodybuilder for a year anyway. But I mean, I certainly remember going in, and Jesus, I used to train, like I was lucky enough. I mean, Aaron was in that gym.
Yeah.
So I trained with him. John Carroll was in the gym actually, him and his brother.
As well, yeah.
Yeah. And then Christian was around. So it was kind of like I would message who I needed to message for information. But I was also very stubborn as a kid. Like I thought I knew everything. Like I wouldn't have been like Sean. Like Sean, I was not like you. When I was 17, I was not messaging people asking
Be
for
like
help.
Sean, don't be like Owen.
Yeah. No, for sure, Sean. I would literally just say, I had to look at you there. You have a good base. You obviously have been training. But for any young guy looking to get into bodybuilding, um, I like, look, this is one thing I do want to bring up. I only hopped on cycle when I was in my prep. I had trained for 3 years with weights before I touched anything. Um, but I have had young juniors come up to me, and I won't know them. And the first thing they tell me is how much shit they're taking, and I'm like, that's such a bad. It's just not the right way to go about it. I mean, so like that's why I give credit to people like Sean, and I do get messages like that every so often. And they don't mention drugs. They want to know about the food. They want to know about the diet, and they want to
Yeah.
know what it takes to
And
mind.
they're the ones that will make it. Because if you've been in this game as long as we have now, and there's all a point when we're young and you think, oh yeah, what's he taking, what's he doing? But if you get up every single morning, every day, and cook your food, sleep every night, and train, and you do it for a long time, and you go in and out, and you're taking certain cycle every now and again, you realize that that's only that little bit extra that you need for recovery, and that if
Yeah,
it's only a secondary thing, and that's the problem. Like, even when the first thing after the show, when I started saying coaching, the amount of guys, younger guys, that message me first and go like, will you be doing my cycle? And I said, I'm not even going to be coaching you now, you know what I mean? Because that's that's the wrong attitude to have, and a lot of younger guys have that attitude now because they just think it's all about what do I take, how do I get there, and realize this takes years and years of eating, sleeping, and obviously that will come into effect when you've built a good base. And like, I don't think they realize that if you're going to put that onto your body now, you're destroying any proper kind of hope of building a solid foundation. Like, if you have to take whatever 500 milligrams of test now when you're 18 or 19, like, what 10 years down the line, what are you going to 500 milligrams of test is going to be nothing to you, and you
yeah,
probably won't even be able to train then, you know what I mean? So I think I think people need to younger guys need to kind of just stop for a minute and realize when all these pros do say that it is just about eat, sleep, and training, it actually is. You know what I mean? Because like they, they didn't get there from drugs alone. They're only just things, along with their genetics, along with everything they've done right all the way to get to the top. And like,
yeah,
it's sad to see that social media and that influence of people looking good all the time, that it seems that steroids are always brought to the top, and that's kind of what open bodybuilding is all about, when really it's not. It's about being in it for the long haul. And yeah, okay, like a lot of other sports like cycling, Lance Armstrong, drugs and PEDs are in every sport, I'm afraid. And it's just because I suppose we take things to extreme lengths that I think drugs are always extreme. But that's not the case. And I think there's a lot of guys, and the older I've gone on, and that's one thing. Another thing I go back to touch on, what Loch Gannon has brought to me, is that drugs and dosages are, and now for me, are the least I've done in years, and I'm
yeah,
making the most progress I've ever done in the last 2 years by working with lower dosages, because I'm healthier. And the food, my sleep, I've homed in on my sleep so much more than ever now, and little things like that you can do when you're young. Um, you've loads of tests flying around your body when you're 18 years of age. So make the most of it, because if you start pinning that young, good luck. You're gonna ruin any chance of getting to where you want to be in the long run, I'm afraid.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, like, look, I mean, the genetic elite are the elite for a reason. I mean, I was listening to a Keown Pearson interview with Fuad Abiad, and um, he only started taking gear after he did the Arnold Classic and came fourth. And people are so quick to dismiss that. And then you
Yeah,
realize, wait a sec, your man Keown is 5'5" and he weighed 170 on stage.
yeah,
170 pounds, which is what? That's 75 or 6 kilos. So he weighed 75 or 76 kilos on stage.
yeah,
Um, like, no, well, 160 is 80. He was 80 something kilos on stage. And that's completely 100% doable naturally at if you're a genetic freak like
Yeah,
that and to look like that. So I think when a young guy sees like a professional and they are extremely big and they look inhuman, um, they were gonna look like that anyway off the juice. Just a little. Ronnie Coleman was natural for years, so
yeah.
it's like I think you get these pros and they were jacked as kids. I mean, look at Jay Cutler when he
Butler
was
was a young age,
18.
yeah.
You know, I mean, Luke Sando has only been training for like, oh God, like what, like 6 years?
Yeah.
I mean, like 7 years. Isn't that crazy? And he's like, so yeah, like do the basics, eat and sleep, and get your training in. Maybe if you're trying to force the food in, get some greens, like get a green supplement or something like that. But just do the basics and look, you can't fail. Like you'll improve, be it 1 pound or be it 10. You like, I mean, you will improve. It's just
Yeah, and I think as someone that age starting off and you kind of want to put on muscle mass, I think when you're young you can burn off food very easily and get in shape very quick. So I think guys need to stop worrying about having abs in the off season, and especially when you're young, like in I suppose I was always one. My off seasons were always kind of crazy food wise, and that's another thing Locke has kind of done for me, is kind of honed them back a bit, but still it just made me have to work harder to get in shape. But
yeah,
I was able to put on a lot of my size from force feeding the food, like, you know what I mean, and doing silly things like waking up at 2:30 for a whey and an ice cream shake, like, you know what I
yeah,
mean, and
yeah,
just but it works, and I think if a lot of these younger guys focus on pushing the food like that and getting their sleep and their heavy training, like,
yeah,
and you do that when you're 17, 18. If I did that when I was 17 or 18, like by the time I was 20, when I only started the gym weighing 58 kilos, I could have been, you know what I mean, something that someone thought was taking gear. And I think that's what people need to get out of their head. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, like I tell people this, like, there's no problem with blending up your food and drinking it either. I mean, I would drink, like, I'm going back to doing what I used to do. It's basically oat shakes with a bit of whey, banana, peanut butter. Drink three of those a day, and then eat three solid meals a day, or drink two of those. That's well enough calories. That's well enough carbohydrates and fats and everything. Like just to grow. I mean, like it's like if you're like if you can't eat, just drink it. Like I mean, just get it into you, and it's easy to digest when it's drunk as well. So, um, just basics, Sean. That's it. That's it. But going ahead, what would you say your plans are going to be? 2021 compete in spring.
Yeah, I think we're going to probably possibly complete in spring. So it all depends on how we're looking by Christmas and the shows. But yeah, the plan would be to do, or else push on for the nationals. I want, when I first started bodybuilding, when I did that first show in 2011, I kind of said to myself, when I seen, it was Ashley, I think, the Indian guy who bet, he was only 64 kilos that day, and he bet Kyle Tiernan, who was 104 kilos. I remember that day so well. But I was backstage with Kyle that day, and I seen him in person, and that was the one thing that kind of kicked me on as well. But I kind of said to myself, I want to win an overall in 10 years' time, and like that's kind of the next year is 2021, so like I kind of have in my head to compete again next year and try push for that. But look, bodybuilding doesn't always work out of the way, but as long as you're progressing and 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 getting better every day and taking every day as you can, I think you'll eventually get there. And sometimes it's not meant to be. Loch Gannon, who's Mr. Universe now, he didn't win his first overall Mr. Ireland for 10 years, and now look where he is. So I think people need to remember that too, and trying to kind of forget about glory and forget about trophies. And James Hollinghead had a good thing on his story today as well about that, like about just how that's kind of missing, and people forget of thinking of where they're going to go and forgetting about these trophies and putting all that aside, and just taking every day as it comes and putting the effort into real progression. And like you saying how some bodybuilders nowadays, even though the guy standing beside you might have a total different and better physique and may win the show, is he a better bodybuilder than you? Genetically, yes, but he might got there in 2 or 3 years, but it might took you 10 years. You know what I mean? And people need to realize you are who you are, and your genetics and your structure and your shape are all somewhat limited but all you can do is do your best with them. And if you can build that, and over time, and you can be the best version of yourself. That's what bodybuilding is about. You know what I mean? Forget about who's standing on stage with you. If you can beat how you looked and how you placed last time, and get better every year, that to me is what bodybuilding really is. Yeah.
Man. Well, look, Connor, it was a delight having you on. And look, I'll have this up tonight for you. Where can people find you for coaching? What are your social media handles?
Well, I almost mostly use it. I'm on Facebook, Connor Magee, but you find me on my Instagram, Connor Magee 1. So CONNORMAGEE 1.
Deadly man. Well, look, savage having you on, man. I'll have this up tonight for you. I'll have the video up tomorrow. You were great. It was great having you on, and sure, look, we'll have to catch up soon and get in the session once we can drive.
Yeah, once the gyms are back open. So look,
all right, man.
Thanks a million for having me on, and good luck. It's good to see, something like this being done, and I think it's great. So hopefully now, everyone can, likes of Darren Farrell coming on next week, and it's good to see, I suppose, the level of and the league coming onto it, and hopefully we can all push on from this, and by next year then have your interviews up and running, and videos. And I think, we'll have to make bodybuilding great in Ireland, really, and I think this will all help.
I'd like hopefully I'll get a few groups on. I have Christian on, like he's meant to come on as well. Brian Hickey never got back to me. Haven't heard back from him since. But he's a busy man, so I don't worry, he'll come back. But no, definitely we'll have a few group discussions, and I'll record them, and just pick it up, see where it goes, and I'll definitely be on again.
Like anything, you have to build on it, and then when you have that base there, that's when it'll all take off, and the numbers will come, and more people will start to flock to it, and that's when it'll really take off. But you're definitely on the right road now, yeah. So best of luck with the rest of it, man. All
right, man. And look,
take it easy.
All right, and look, for anyone listening, links to this will be up, all over. We're up on Spotify now, YouTube, all the other regular podcast outlets, and that is us.